Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, and just about anything else that grabs our attention. I'm Scott Barker. I am the editor of Compass. We're a subscription-based website and newsletter, and where we report on all of these things, and you can find us at CompassKnox.com. We're recording this at the studios of Barbarian Productions in Rocky Hill, where Lord Seth Barber produces our podcast and others. Seth, how are you doing today?
I was waiting for a reign supreme. It just felt like right in that phrasing. You were warming up to it. I reign
well, you
supreme.
do reign supreme here, so.
I am the no, great. Glad to have that little bit of rain to come through. It was getting a little dry there for a little while. I don't know why I always revert to weather whenever you ask me how it's doing, but a little bit overcast today, but it's not stupid cold and it's not raining, so it's a win all around.
Okay. That was an upbeat assessment here of the situation. So thanks for that, Seth. This week we have a lot of things that we'll be touching on that happened over the past week. First of all, or not first of all, but one of the things is with opening day of baseball season on its way, the return of the Knoxville Smokies in professional baseball to Knoxville. The Smokies released their promotion schedule. It's kind of a couple of interesting little things that we'll share with you there, and we won't go through all of it because it's minor league baseball and they have lots of promotions. We'll also talk about the Visit Knoxville was able to secure the AAU Girls Basketball World Championships for this year, for the next 5 years. And we'll talk about that briefly. It's not going to be an all sports podcast, of course. Energy Secretary Chris White visited ORNL last week. Randy Boyd, president of the University of Tennessee, spoke out finally on federal funding and the threat of its loss. We had a rare meeting between Sheriff Tom Spangler and County Commissioner Damon Rawls as a public meeting to talk about some of the incidents the Sheriff's Office has been involved in lately. We're going to start out talking about the city budget hearings. A couple of items from them came out. The budget hearings are basically an opportunity for the department heads in the city and others who get funding from the city to go to the mayor and her cabinet, her top aides, and make appeals, make their requests for the upcoming budget. It's a wish list. Nothing gets guaranteed to be added to the budget, but they have but you can kind of see where the city might be going on certain things. One of the tidbits that came out of this is that we've talked about this in the past, a low barrier shelter for people who are experiencing homelessness. We had one. It was called the Foyer, and Volunteer Ministry Center ran it for about 4 years, and then last year in March, about this time, they determined that the operations of the shelter violated, or they violate, but that did not comply with the Housing and Urban Development's requirements for grant funding, and they were operating it with this grant. And what it was Volunteer Ministry Center required that anyone staying there be actively searching for permanent housing. Well, HUD said that did not meet the definition of low barrier. It was that actually constituted a barrier to people using the shelter. So Volunteer Ministry Center said, well, if we can't do that, that's what we do. We try to find people permanent housing. So they decided to discontinue operations there, and the City County Office of Housing Stability has been unable to find a replacement for them. So the foyer has closed. There is no low barrier shelter. Low barrier shelters basically, as long as you're not violent and you don't have illegal drugs on you, whatever, you can go there. You can stay there. It's not very few requirements. You can even bring your you have a dog, you bring your dog in. There's all kinds of it is for people who basically either can't or won't stay in a traditional shelter. And so we lost when it closed down. It had 30 beds, and it's located down at the old Salvation Army thrift store on Broadway, near the Knox Area Rescue Ministries shelter. So anyway, it's been closed for a year, and but the city's Department of Housing and Neighborhood Development and the Office of Housing Stability, mentioned before, are requesting $300,000 from city government and a large number from county government as well to restart this, to open a new one. It would be larger. They're hoping to get up to 75 beds. But the Kevin DuBose, who's the head of the Department of Housing and Neighborhood Development, said that and Aaron Reed, who's the executive director of the Office of Housing Stability, said that they're looking at several locations. One might be the thrift store. They could reuse it, but they are looking at several locations, and they're talking to multiple providers to see who can operate it. But they wanted to request funding in next year's budget so they could actually move, really truly develop a plan and move forward. And so, of course, as I mentioned before, it's not guaranteed that it will be in the budget. The David Brace, who's the chief of staff for Mayor Kincannon, said that there are a lot of moving parts. They don't know how it's going to work out. There's no real finality to it, but that's one of the things that they are looking to do in next year's budget is get this funding for a low barrier shelter. In kind of a related matter, the Office of Housing Stability also asked for additional $30,000 in next year's budget for their network of emergency warming centers. We've talked about these before as well. These are primarily in churches that volunteer to open their doors on the coldest nights of winter for people who are homeless. And they're not really, they're not permanent shelters like Carnes Shelter is, or this low barrier shelter would be, but it is low barrier, and it's basically just a place on the really cold nights that people can go and not freeze to death. They're only open on the coldest nights. Aaron Reed, the executive director of the Office of Housing Stability, said that they didn't they didn't have enough money this year. We had quite a few cold snaps this winter, and so they want to be better prepared next winter. So they're asking the city and the county for more money there as well. And the other interesting requests came from the Knoxville Police Department. They're asking for $1.6 million in new spending in next year's budget. Part of that, a big part of that, is the contract with the McNabb Center, about $440,000 of it to add to their extended contract. The city council's already approved. They've approved the contract. They haven't approved the spending, but it'll be in the budget for them to approve. That's one item that is almost assured to get in the budget because it is a contractual obligation to the city. But that is to expand the co-response program. The KPD has run that program. We've talked about it a lot. It's where an officer is paired with a mental health clinician from the McNabb Center, and they go out on calls involving mental health crises, and it's a way to resolve those with less without taking somebody to jail. They try to get them treatment instead. Only about 3% of their calls end up being involving an arrest. But these are crises involving people who have mental health issues. Sometimes they have multiple issues in drug overdoses or drug problems, things like that. The officer and the mental health clinician, talk to them, get them through the crisis, the immediate crisis, try to get them into treatment of some sort. And they do follow-up work. They do a lot of things. The KPD currently has 4 of these teams. The expansion will move that to 6. They're hoping to eventually get to 9 teams so they can cover the all the sectors of the city. They've got 3 patrol areas that they cover, and they would be able to cover the entire city for almost 20, not quite 24 hours a day, but for the hours that they get the bulk of these calls. So, like I said, that's going to be that's pretty much a done deal because there is a contract involved. KPD is also asking for $456,000 for new equipment, and this is actually kind of a good signal for KPD. They've had staffing issues for years, but they've got some pretty hefty academy classes with new recruits coming in, and they're running out of new equipment. Things like belts and the tactical vests and firearms. Everything that you need to fit out a new officer, which David Powell, the assistant chief, said actually costs about $175,000 to do. And that's doesn't include vehicle or cameras, but they do. There are retirements and things, and they do try to reuse some of the equipment. They can't reuse all of it. A lot of it has too much wear and tear, so they're wanting to spend that money for new equipment. They've got usually they do 1 to 2 police academies a year. This year, this calendar year, they're doing 3. They also have a couple of the more abbreviated academies for officers who are coming from other departments and hiring into KPD. So there's a big need for new equipment, they say, and they put in that request. That's a request that is not guaranteed to be in the budget, but they're also looking to hire new people, family services advocate, to work with crime victims and families of people who died of drug overdoses, things like that. Crime scene technicians, a lot of these positions, for instance, crime scene technicians previously had been filled by sworn police officers, but they're moving away from that because they want their sworn officers to be out investigating crimes and the crime scene, and not taking photos and mapping out crime scenes. That can be done by someone who's not a sworn officer, and so they're moving to that. So they're wanting some new personnel, and some of those it's kind of interesting, and this is it's where you get to the downside of grant funding. Some of these positions have been funded by grants. Grants are running out, and so if they want to keep the positions, they've got to find the money in the city budget. So, but those requests are also in. We're just in the early stages of or actually the mid stage, I guess, of the budget process for the city. This is was the last kind of public discussion time before the mayor unveils her budget at the State of the City address, which is coming up later in the spring. And betting, I am betting that that's going to be at the new stadium. So we'll see. We'll see exactly where it is, but that's the the city is moving forward. They're in good. They say they're in good financial position. There's been no talk whatsoever of a tax increase or anything like that. So people who live in the city can be reasonably assured that at this point, we don't know about grant funding from Washington, but at this point, things are looking okay. The county side, we had an interesting meeting that happened a week ago, Friday, and that was Sheriff Tom Spangler and County Commissioner Damon Rawls had a kind of a public meeting to talk about some of the incidents the sheriff's office has been involved in. One of the things that makes this kind of an unusual thing is Spangler, like most sheriffs in recent years in Knox County, rarely engages in these kinds of meetings. Sheriff's office is an independent office. It doesn't, the only time that a sheriff generally, not singling out Spangler, but a sheriff tends to get out and talk to, hold meetings in the public for things like that. It's when they're running for re-election.
Right. So, that or they're asking for money on some budget stuff for one this year or that year. Yeah. Those are the two. I'll tell you what, just a silver lining, because apparently I'm just in a chipper mood today. It is exciting to see Sheriff Spangler out with his recent health issues, and that is a positive sign for his health stuff, and that was nice to see him out in public doing the job and overcoming those health concerns we had. Yeah, he's doing real well. When I've talked to him, he said he's doing real well. He had he's been fighting cancer, and that's not a secret. And he for a while when he was going through treatment, he lost his hair as cancer patients will do, and but then it's grown back. He looks good. Yeah, he did. Good. I was very excited to see him for that point of it. Now the other parts of this meeting weren't as positive as that part was, but take the wins where you can get them. Because there's a lot of people that have questions, and I thought it was appropriate for him to partake in this meeting, and I'm glad he did, especially with some of the different information that got discussed. Yeah, the main driving force behind this was the deaths recently of two African American men, David Batts, who died after being taken to the jail. And
Devin Montez St. Germain, who was a teenager who was killed when the SWAT team executing a search warrant went into his home, and in that interaction, they shot and killed him. The Batts, who I said was the one who went to jail, turns out the preliminary findings were that he died of meningitis, although he had he had wounds. Apparently, there was an altercation at the jail, but that wasn't.
There were some physical signs of struggle, in the near term, not just as meningitis at play. Yeah,
and so there's been a lot of concern in the African American community in particular about what exactly happened there. St. Germain, the same goes for his death. He's a student at South Louisville High School, and there was a search warrant. They were investigating for selling drugs at school, and turns out the SWAT team did not wear body cameras, and the sheriff's office had body cameras for years, but apparently the SWAT team has not been wearing them. And now,
correct me if I'm wrong. It seemed like Spangler's response to that was he wasn't aware that they weren't?
Yeah, that was a strange thing. He
like I could see like maybe the argument from the SWAT team was we got to move quick, we can't have this extra stuff on, blah 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 blah, and the decision was made to not wear them. But it sounded to me like he thought they should have been wearing them or something of that.
Yeah. He said that he didn't know that they weren't wearing them. Now, granted, it's a big department of 1,000 or so people. He's not going to know every single detail of everything that goes on all the time, but that's something you'd think that there would be a policy, that they follow, that they make sure they adhere to, especially with the SWAT team, where they by definition they go into situations where bad things can happen, and that is the body cameras are there to protect the officers as much as they are to protect the citizens. I mean, the one thing about the St. Germain case is they weren't wearing body cameras, so there's no recording of what actually happened there. The SWAT team said that he had a weapon that he displayed.
Right, which is a funny word to use, but not inaccurate, but just a funny word to use in the situation.
Well, it's kind of cop speak,
right?
And it's unclear, if he and there, that's a perfect example. If you just hold it, if you point it, aim it at an officer, what did he do? We don't know.
I mean, like my uncle, for example, has a rifle displayed on his wall.
Yeah.
Like by the use of the word display, it's like, well, there's a difference in those things, and it would be nice to have irrefutable, proper evidence of that, just to have this conversation, both for the officer's sake as well as the families of those involved.
Yeah, and the and that's what many of the people who were at the meeting, talked about. They think it's there for accountability purposes, and it would absolutely, if St. Germain had a weapon, aimed it at an officer, and the officers fired, then that would be good for the officers that they had that in. There wouldn't be this meeting if they had worn body cameras and the recordings had been made public, because there would be
right. It's justified. If it was justified, then
of course, if it was not justified, then
the DA's office didn't choose to bring charges in the first place, but at least it's still clearly, and then it's not a conversation of, well, is the DA office works with the sheriff's office all the time, they're kind of friends, is this friends looking out for friends, or is this something that's truly happened? Again, that irrefutable evidence being just, it's the easiest way to answer the questions is look at it.
Yeah, and the some of the people who were at the meeting, some of the citizens who were there and some were angry, and vented a little bit. But one of the people who was there was Rashad Woods of the Denounce Gang Intervention Knoxville chapter. Said, we can't change what happened, but he circulated a petition about trying to force change. Rawls said that the sheriff's office needs to have body-worn cameras for every officer and cameras in every cruiser. Which Spangler said would cost the department an extra $600,000. So technology is expensive, but how
many wrongful death suits do you have to stack up?
Yeah, I know.
Paid off?
It would be probably one. And some of the people who attended weren't really satisfied because they didn't get a firm, yes, we will ask the mayor for an extra $600,000 for this, and we will put body cameras on every officer. They didn't get that promise, and so a lot of people were disappointed. But I'm sure that it will be something that will be discussed. Will be in the county's budget cycle, but the county does things a little differently than the city does. They don't have as many public discussions of things that might go in the budget. In fact, the city's budget hearing probably did not need to be, probably legally wouldn't have to be done in public, because these were people who work for the mayor talking to the mayor about what they want in their budget. There's no deliberation going on. No city. There was one city council member did come as a member of the public. Andrew Roberto showed up, but just to see what they were talking about. I mean, there's no, but the city has a long history of making those public meetings, and which is a good thing, so people do know what's coming up. And but I'm sure there will be some pressure applied to, if not Spangler, directly to Mayor Glenn Jacobs, and to include money for that in the budget. But the big but, it is, generally speaking, Spangler's call on line items, and also Jacobs, is coming up on, is be one of his, he's always been very frugal, he's not had a tax, not proposed a tax increase, won't even talk about a tax increase. They haven't had a tax increase in the county in a quarter century, but if it's going to cost extra money, it would have to be reflected in the property tax rate. It's not going to get in the budget, and so there's that that consideration. So anyway, it will be interesting to see how things go moving forward. If I think that the meeting has said earlier, it actually, I think, behooves the sheriff to have meetings like this, to get out and and explain, if not, if not apologize, at least explain this is what we do. This is why we do it. This is why we can't do this. This is why we can't do that. And it just is one of those things that helps reassure the public that things are going the way they're supposed to go. Speaking of reassuring the public, and especially the University of Tennessee community, also a week ago Friday at the UT Board of Trustees winter meetings, Randy Boyd, the university system president, finally addressed the possibility of deep funding cuts from the federal government. That was we had been asking about that for a long time. No real just got kind of vague responses from his office about that. There's President Trump and billionaire aide Elon Musk, are trying to shrink the size of the federal government, at least shrink the number of people who work for the federal government. And they're talking about slashing spending. One of the things they're going to be cutting is grant funding, and of course the UT spends or receives millions of dollars in grant funding from the federal government. I don't know if all this isn't federal money, but in the budget discussions they had during the winter meeting, $423 million of the budget, the UT's budget, comes from grants and contracts and federal appropriations. So it's a big chunk of money. It's not the budget's a lot bigger than that, but the it's a $3.6 billion budget for the UT system. It's not just UTK, UT system. So, but the administration has also threatened to cut all federal funding from institutions that continue diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. So there's a lot of threats out there to the.
Oh, you got the campus ones, the
federal funding.
Yeah, some of the campus ones about allowing illegal protests, which is a weird phrase. They're going to deny grant funding to state schools whom allow illegal protests. Which, again, not to editorialize too much, but I have a lot of questions about the definition of an illegal protest.
Yeah, that's. I think a lot of people do.
Right. I'm not super good on my Constitution, but I'm pretty sure there's no legal definition of illegal. I can't even say it. It's so ridiculous. Sorry.
But yeah, that's. But all of these are threats to university funding, and Boyd had not really addressed that yet. But what he did finally during the winter meetings, and what he did was he kind of hearkened back to the COVID pandemic and the challenges that hit UT in 2020 when they had to suddenly stop in-person learning. Basically close all the classrooms in across the system, and he said that experience of managing the system in the campuses through COVID, which was unprecedented, will help them weather whatever storms come this time. Talked about relying on principles of collaboration, transparency, and in taking decisive action. Those are the things that they took away from their COVID response, and they're going to apply those to whatever happens with their federal funding. And he did go on to say, and this was a little more concrete than that, is that UT is in good financial shape, and can handle a lot of. Don't know if they can handle everything that they're talking about coming down the road, that could come down the road, but revenues since COVID, since 2020, revenue's gone up 32%. The university's net position or net value is grown 41%. Cash balances are now a shade under $2 billion. And their investments are up to $1.6 billion. So Boyd said that that strong financial position will help. He even threw in a quote from investor Warren Buffett, who said that when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
It's a good quote. Great quote.
Yeah, and Boyd said that UT with the finances means that UT's got its swimsuit on. So.
All right, so I got a challenge to the listeners since we're on the topic. Somebody who's good at the Photoshop, let's get a picture of Randy in a UT swimsuit real quick and get that out there and put that quote next to it. I think that'll be a great little local meme for us that are dorky enough to care about it.
There you go. That's a good challenge there, Seth. So maybe somebody will take you up on it. Speaking of people in the Trump administration and cuts and all at the same time, all this stuff happened a week ago last Friday. So that was when we were recording our podcast for last week. So it was a busy day back then. But Chris Wright, who is the new energy secretary, visited Oak Ridge National Laboratory, which is, of course, is a Department of Energy facility. It is one of the biggest employers in East Tennessee. It's do a lot of obviously do a lot of nuclear research there, because that's it was born during the Manhattan Project. They do a lot of climate research there. They do all kinds of they've got the world's either fastest or second fastest supercomputer, depending on what year it is. That helps researchers in a huge variety of fields do their work. Anyway, and of course the many at DOE, like other agencies in the federal government, had to a lot of probationary employees were told that they no longer were employed by the Trump administration with this Musk's operation, trying to slash funding. It was one of those things that and I think we mentioned this last week. Probationary employees in the federal government, that doesn't mean entry level. If you do a great job for 10 years and you get promoted to a new position, you are probationary in your new position. And so a lot of people who have been recently promoted found out that they lost their jobs.
Right, and that included people that not necessarily got promoted, but also got transferred to a different location doing the same level job.
Yeah.
It just any change in your job title or any change in that puts you under the said category. And so there's a lot of people in weird spots, not just new employees. Well,
they're walking that back, and that was part of what Wright was in town to do. He also kind of downplayed the whole thing. People are making too big of a deal of all this, and he also didn't when he was asked about threats to ongoing research initiatives and programs, he kind of was dismissive about that. He said, "I'm not here to talk about the past. We're in and things like that." So he actually preferred. He was also asked directly about climate change and the climate research, because there's a lot of that climate research that goes on at ORNL, and he basically said, "Well, climate change isn't the biggest issue facing this these days." So kind of was dismissive of climate change in general. When you know his background, it's not surprising. He's a CEO of a hydraulic fracturing company. And, in fact, he got some notoriety a few years ago by taking the fluid that they use in fracking, which gets pumped under pressure into shale, breaks up the shale, releasing natural gas that can be taken and then refined and used. But the fluid that they used to do that, he took it and actually drank some of it on camera to prove how safe it is. So it's not a surprise that he was downplaying climate change. He really wanted to talk about artificial intelligence. One of the people in the entourage with him was OpenAI co-founder Greg Brockman. But Wright was saying, basically, there's an AI arms race, and American businesses need to lead the way in winning that. And and what he said, ORNL's role, or the government's role, is to assist private companies in developing AI, or continuing to develop AI tools to win that arms race. I don't know what winning that arms race actually means, but that's what he said when he was here. It's a brief visit, very small number of people at ORNL who were there. I think I don't know how reassuring the visit was to the employees who are concerned about their jobs, but he did. It is a month into his job, and he has visited Oak Ridge. I don't know how many of the national labs he's visited, but Oak Ridge is on the radar of the energy secretary. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll find out in the coming months, I'm sure.
I mean, you'd have to think if AI is the conversation, and the the fastest or second fastest supercomputer in the world is there, that they're probably thinking about its capabilities and helping in that process.
I'm sure they are.
And so, at least some reassurance if you're in that sector of Oak Ridge right now, that those jobs are staying around.
Well, yeah, but I mean, one of the things that they use the supercomputer for is climate modeling. So if they make them stop doing climate modeling and start doing focusing on AI, then I don't know. And you just don't know how these things are going to end up playing out and how they're going to be funded and all. But if it certainly sounds like they are going to want to emphasize artificial intelligence over climate research. Anyway, that's now it's time to.
No, I got to interrupt. I can't not do this punchline. It's killing me. So the end of the world. So the climate change isn't the concern long term, because the world will be over because the Terminator will be here and kill us all first. Is that that may be the plan?
That could be. Yeah. We won't have to worry about
right. Global warming's irrelevant when the Terminators are killing everybody.
That's certainly true. Anyway, these weighty matters of the end of the world and all. We're going to put that behind us now.
Right.
Now it's time for sports.
Yeah.
which we don't which we don't actually cover.
Right.
But this is more of the business angle of sports. So the Visit Knoxville Sports Commission, which their job is to recruit sporting events to Knoxville. They announced that the AAU Girls Basketball World Championships would be returning to Knoxville this year. It's going to be in June, and it's going to be for first of 5 years that it's going to be here. The AAU is a huge amateur sports organization, a variety of sports, girls and boys. This will be the girls second grade through 11th grade who will be coming here and be they've been here before. The last time they were here was 2023, and had 2,700 athletes, their coaches, their families. Then we had several thousand people coming to Knoxville for that, and so that's a big economic boost in the middle of summer. The AAU Joe Mirza, who's the president, said that Knoxville is it's got a long history with women's basketball and girls basketball, with especially with Pat Summitt, the legendary UT Lady Vols coach, and the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and they were very pleased with the their last visit to Knoxville. So they're coming back. They'll be here for 5 years, and that's a big boon for the or Visit Knoxville to be able to pull that. And so their second big announcement too, because next year they just recently announced that next year they're going to have the Bassmasters Classic here. So that's going to be next year. So that's another big event. So that's on the hardwood. That's going to be at the convention center. Is where those championships will be played out. And these are all the AAU. It's the Amateur Athletic Union, but we also have professional sports here, and our professional baseball team is coming back. The Knoxville Smokies, after a quarter century in Sevier County, coming back. We've talked on and on about the new stadium, which is Covenant Health Park, and opening day is coming up rapidly. Beyond the 15th is the first day of the 2025 season for the Smokies. It's also the first day of a 5-game homestand against the Chattanooga Lookouts, and anybody who knows anything about minor league baseball knows that they do all kinds of zany promotions and crazy things going on, and the Smokies released their schedule of those promotional events coming up, and opening day they're going to have festivities. It's going to start a little bit earlier. They're going to have 4:30 is. They're going to have all kinds of events outside the stadium. They'll open the gates. First pitch will be at 7:30. I'm sure there's going to be some hoopla around that. The ticket holders will get commemorative gifts, a commemorative ticket, tote bags, things like that. And then there will be all kinds of events during that first week homestand. One thing anybody who lives near the stadium will need to know is that on 27 nights, 27 home games, there will be a big fireworks display at the end of the game. So
right. So what did they say? The full first week they're going to do fireworks?
Every day the first week.
They used to do it on Fridays. Is every Friday a home game, or are they doing more than that?
I'm not sure. I didn't look at all of the dates.
Gotcha.
So, and they didn't say that, this is just going to be a regular Friday thing. They're going to have a big one on the 4th of July. They did say that. But one of the things that they're going to do is, they're going to do during this homestand is they're going to have the Smokies are going to wear one of the games, they're going to wear their alternate jerseys. And the first 2,000 people who show up with tickets will get replicas of their alternate jerseys. On Easter Sunday, on the 20th of April, after the game, there will be an Easter egg hunt. 20,000 Easter eggs for kids to go out and find. They're going to be scattered all over the playing field. So, but there are going to be all these other weird things. There's going to be a Peanuts night where they're going to have the Smokies are going to wear uniforms inspired by Charlie Brown. They do base running, for the kids all the time. They do all kinds of stuff. There's going to be a medieval night where people who are dressed up in medieval costumes will joust and fight outside the.
That's an intense thing to watch if you've never done it.
Yeah, I know.
Very intense to spectate on, and because they hit the crap out of each other with real things. And
yeah, that's they're going to do that in the plaza outside of the stadium, and they're doing all of these things. But there's one that kind of stood out to me was, and it's not really a joke thing. It is on the 8th of August, which most people know African Americans in Tennessee refer to as Emancipation Day. It is the day that Andrew Johnson, who was at the time the military governor of Tennessee, and then became vice president and then president when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. That was the day he freed his slaves, and so that has been celebrated in Tennessee and parts of Kentucky as Emancipation Day. And the Smokies are playing at home on that day, and they are going to play tribute to the Knoxville Giants, who were they were founding members of the Negro Southern League. They won the league first league championship, but they were the black professional baseball team in the city of Knoxville. Smokies are going to wear their uniforms, and that's going to be a regular occurrence going forward, according to their press release on this. It's particularly significant too because the stadium, Covenant Health Field, it's right adjacent to the old city. It's along First Creek, and it's the location. The area there was an African American neighborhood called the Bottom, because it was in the creek bottom, and it was a neighborhood that was demolished as part of urban renewal in the 1960s, and there's been a lot of there's a lot of discussion about that in the stadium location in the past couple of years, but the Smokies are planning to pay tribute to the old Knoxville Giants and make that probably I don't know if it'd be an annual event. That would depend on the schedule, but they did say that the Smokies would do that on a regular basis. So that opening day, as I said, is going to be on April 15th. So we're a little bit more than a month away. So
just make sure you have your taxes done beforehand so you can relax and enjoy it, because that's what most of us are stressing about right now.
Yeah, well, yeah. One of the things that they I don't know, a promotion could be
great
to have postal service employees down there, if they haven't been laid off or fired. Have postal service employees down there so you can drop off your taxes and go on into the game.
That would be a brilliant little combine thing. Maybe get one of those TurboTaxes down there and you get free tickets. The TurboTax will pay for your tickets if they let them do your taxes or whatever. There's so many options. There's so many tax places.
There are. And if it wasn't opening day of a brand new stadium, they might do something like that. But maybe next year.
I'll tell you what. One of my favorite events ever was when my kids were in Scouts. They did Scouts Night, where it was like discounted tickets to all the Scouts. We had a bunch of Scouts from all over East Tennessee came, did the game, and then we got to camp on the field. That night we watched. I can't remember what one of the movies was, but we watched a movie on the jumbotron while we're setting up our tents on the outfield. And it was just a great, fun little thing to do.
Yeah,
I'm curious if we're going to do those things again in this one.
Well, they'll be doing a lot of things. I mean, they, it's not their first rodeo, that's for sure. So they'll do that. Minor league clubs are famous for doing these kinds of promotions and all kinds of wacky things all throughout a game. And so I am looking forward to see kind of what kinds of things they'll come up with at the new Smoky Stadium. So anyway, that's our report from last week. Next week, the civic calendar is a little light. The Knox County Planning Commission is going to meet on Thursday. They'll be doing their usual assortment of subdivisions, rezonings, plans approvals, those kinds of things. And I'm sure there's going to be some of them at least will be objected to on grounds of the roads are too narrow and the schools are too full. So you can
don't even know what specifics on it, and you can make that guess, and you're probably right.
Oh yes, absolutely. So which highlights a couple of infrastructure issues that the county has faced and is facing. So but then there'll be other news that occurs. We'll be covering it as well. If you want to keep track of that, you can visit us at CompassKnox.com. Subscribe there, and you'll get an email in your inbox every morning with news, and you'll have access to our website where we have longer stories. That'll be it for us. I thank Lord Seth Barber for his intrepid work on engineering. Our music is by Will Wright, and we will talk to you again next week.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.